All right. Well, welcome. Good morning. Coffee with Paul and Joe.
Had to breathe on this one, man.
And to breathe, ready to breathe. All right. I'm not going to mince words. You know me, I'm a personal and professional coach. I do a lot of work with people around anything from career to love to physical health. Paul, you kick ass on all kinds of levels, doing work around individual human coaching, teams, and corporate coaching, around wellness, the body, the mindset, stress, right?
Yes.
Knocking it out, teaching yoga, animal flow, getting
Yeah.
people to connect mind, body, and spirit to give
Move.
them the best possible result and potential to show up in the world. Today, we want to talk about something that every human being experiences on a regular basis and something that most human beings avoid daily and go through extraordinary lengths to avoid daily. We want to talk about conflict. Life is full of conflict. There's conflict between human beings. There's conflict between people on a team in their corporate life. There's conflict between neighbors, right? Somebody likes the particular yard to look a certain way. There's conflict everywhere between different groups, polarized groups within our nation, within our culture, politically, racially, socioeconomically. There's conflict between nations, right? Everything is filled with conflict. And it's something that I'm surprised by. We just assume that it's shitty and it's bad and we try and avoid it, and we don't really learn amazing skills to navigate through it, right? If conflict's everywhere, and the most important conflict, every single one of us, if we're conscious and aware of our emotions, our feelings, our body, our mind, the desires that we have in this world, we have extraordinary amounts of inner conflict every day, right? There's a conflict between different competing needs, competing wants, competing commitments, competing voices, competing energies. Sometimes my mind wants this, my body wants that, right? Sometimes the ambitious parts of me want to kick ass here, but something in me is tired and needs pleasure and rest. So I'm torn, right? So at the end of the day, this topic is something that we don't learn to be good at. It's kind of like, I'm always fascinated. It's like, how come people don't learn to be really put in energy to be good at sex? Like, everyone wants it. Everyone talks about it. It infects all of us. A lot of people just fumble through it until who knows when. Right?
True.
But we got to do that that's another topic. Right? Next episode.
Next week.
But conflict, man, it's everywhere.
Yes.
So I'm big on wanting to teach. I talk about courageous conversation. Essentially, it's the mindset and the art and skill of moving from conflict to connection. My belief is that conflict is here to show us or teach us something about ourselves, and or to bring us into deeper connection with the parties that we have that we're having conflict with. So after hearing my little intro here, my setup, what's coming up for you in this moment around this particular topic?
Parenthood.
Ooh, no.
Yeah.
Co-parenting.
Co-parenting and parenthood. Not custodial parenthood. Something we talked about before, divorce.
You are the man in the arena compared to me when it comes to the conflict, because I can't imagine all the stuff I talk, all the things I teach. I'm sure they'd be challenged like crazy if this is about parenting my children with someone I'm no longer with or someone I'm with.
Yeah,
hit it, man.
Boy. Now this you in all those arenas. This is where this piece you're talking about here, the conflict into connection. I've learned through my experiences in those arenas that the conflict has brought me to a deeper connection with self, and looking at what are the triggers that are getting to me. Because, there's anger there, especially when it comes to divorce. There could be anger, there could be resentment there. I speak for myself. But at first I mentioned parenthood because, for me, especially doing my best to raise a conscious and an emotionally intelligent being, or co-creating or co-raising that a being like that, co-parenting, there's conflict that comes up. And I experienced that with my oldest son recently. And in that conflict that we had with each other, there was some friction. It was tough. It was difficult. It brought up a lot of things in me. I'm sure it brought us some things in him that were difficult. And the great thing about it is that we were able to have I was able to lead a conversation afterwards, right? Like we were able to just talk and like ask some questions. And then we both had a deeper connection with each other because we got to learn about each other. And that's a tough space because, I'm not going to say a tough space. It's a growth edge. There's resistance there because when that conflict comes up, what I've noticed, Joe, is it teaches me about myself. Like, what are the things that this action is triggering in me?
Yeah.
And then when you say the deeper connection, now when I look at that with myself, I can communicate that with someone else. Like, listen, what just went down right there, this is where I was coming from.
Yeah.
And thank you for your patience. And this is what was happening. So I really appreciate this conversation because what you said before is correct. We tend to shy away from the conflict. And something I heard from Phil Beverly recently was his advice for growth is go towards the resistance.
Always. Not always, but
majority of the time.
Often.
Go towards the resistance. And then now that visually brings up for me this pull between the heart and the head. There's resistance. Where's the most resistance? Right at the center, because it's like this pull.
Yeah.
But is it a pull or is it an expansion?
Right.
See, so that's what's coming up for me. I'm digging this topic right here, man.
Yeah, here's the deal. I mean, it's like anything. If we want the juice, we want the richness, we want the sweetness, we want the gold of life.
Yeah.
We've got to go into the center of the earth and mine for that. And it's dangerous. You know? And I'm using metaphor here, but let's make it easy. You want good relationships? You want a thriving business? Mm-hmm. You want a high quality family? You create comfort by moving towards discomfort, getting through the short-term challenge.
Right.
Moving through a short period of stress, so I'm not in a chronic experience of stress. Examples, right? Let's give an example.
Yep.
How many people didn't speak up about that thing that bothered them that their partner did when they were early dating? And then 6 years later, it's the thing that they cannot stand. Where the truth is a short moment of tension, which has real risk in it, and a lot of discomfort at an earlier stage in a personal relationship would give that other person the opportunity to make a choice. Do they want to work on this for you, for the relationship? Or do you get to learn where that's coming from so you have more patience and compassion? Or do both occur, but instead we are uncomfortable for years at a time, months, years, weeks, days, hours, when it could often be moments. Right? So I'll give an example. I've been dating someone, it's been going really well. But one of the number one things that triggers me in this world is people who do not allow me to finish sentences, where they interrupt a lot.
Oh, damn. I can't imagine that.
It's a deep trigger for me because I'll be honest, my mom does that stuff. My mom's always done that stuff. She still does it. For the last 5 years, I've been like, Ma, would you let me finish my sentence? Hey, Mom, maybe you'd understand. Oh, what was it I was saying? Because you seem to know before I finished. It's like, and I had an ex-wife who did that. It's like, and I'm pretty sure, actually, if I'm being honest, any woman I've ever been in a deep relationship with has had some flavor of that. So it just triggers this place in me of feeling a little disempowered, like I'm not being respected enough to be listened to, enough to be understood. And a lot of miscommunications happen in those moments. So there's an emotional side of it, but then there's just a logical side of we can't really know what each other is saying unless we slow down and listen. And I've always, since I'm 20 years old, been in careers where top-notch active listening is a requirement for me. So it's a skill that I equate with, in some weird way, a good human has a bomb listening skill, Wow. So this is happening, but from this person, I noticed myself being much more tolerant. Why? Because it's almost always coming from this passion and this exuberance and this curiosity. And so I'm respecting it and I'm seeing it in a new way. but I'm not fooling myself. It started to trigger me already and create these only moments of disconnection that I think we've had. It's like when I feel that, right? So I had this thing of like, okay, do I bring it up now? Right? I think to give us a chance, I bring it up now.
Right.
So even though I'm practicing this and I teach this and I do whole workshops on conflict to connection, here we are.
Right.
We spent a day together. We've done a bunch of cool stuff. And it's like, well, we're probably going to wrap up soon. It's like, Joe's already procrastinated this long to bring up the topic.
Oh, shit.
But the truth was, I brought it up. Brought it up and just said, hey, I've been noticing this. And within a couple minutes, I learned that she wants to be better at that. She's afraid that it's going to be a problem because it's like an unconscious behavior. So in that moment, I got to like listen, and my impatience came up, and I got to ask, well, I hear you. I hear that you're fearful that it may never fully change, but are you willing to try? Yeah. Then what came for me was I was able to share, you know what, the truth is I sometimes ramble. I'm not the most concise. I can be quite verbose, as I'm being right now. I can repeat my points in different ways from some old version of wounding where I think I'm not heard, right? And I constantly feel misunderstood. So we got to share all this in that moment. And I got to go, okay, Joe, if you want this from this person, then you are going to have to be patient. And we worked out a system. You know, we're going to system like, oh, the system is if she's done that to me and it's something that it's going to happen. It happens with each other all the time.
Integration. Yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah.
It's going to happen. And some people think it's healthy. There's healthy ways to do it. I've learned that through Jason Gaddis's relationship school. There's healthy ways to interrupt. There's ways to interrupt that are really important for a relationship. So we talked a little about that. I gave her those tools. If I'm rambling, going, hey, I want to actually add something here, or hold on, I don't understand something. I'm curious. And I asked her to like put a hand on my shoulder or my leg, like touch me.
Right.
And say, hey, wait a second. I want to get something in here. Whereas same thing, she said, well, I'll tell you what, if I'm interrupting you and you feel triggered, just look me in the eye and say my name and stop. And then bring it up. And I was like, okay.
Mm-hmm. System, check-ins.
So there's a system about it, right? But the point is, we've got to learn about each other in that moment, but it was risk. I knew that bringing it up, it's like, if this person doesn't respond in a way that feels mindful, that feels thoughtful about my emotions, they respond defensively, this might be a deal breaker type of deal, you know? So my point is, it takes risk, takes courage, but it almost always brings us deeper.
Okay. So
good deal, man.
Wow. So for people that are watching this, what you just experienced, like what you just did had various levels that I think it's helpful for us to just break down.
Yeah, I'd love to break it down and give some tools here. I'd love to give some tools before we wrap up.
Yeah, man, because like this is gold stuff right here. Because first of all, there's the awareness. So for people that are watching, what Joe was just talking about, he had an awareness around his situation. First, it was like, okay, I get triggered when people interrupt me. Okay, there's an awareness there. Because first of all, that's the first step. What's the piece that's triggering me? What is that really? The second step, right, that I think is really helpful is start digging. Once you have the awareness of what the trigger is, you'll notice that Joe said, well, I know where it comes from. And she still does it. And that. And now when you were digging here, man, well, I thought it was just a gift. You unearthed, okay, what's really underneath that? Like, okay, am I being hurt? So I'm going to have to tell you, listen, I'm telling you again, because I don't think you heard me the second time. Okay. So that's a piece here, and then there was this acknowledgement where you're like, you know, I do have a tendency to be verbose. And that's where that first piece of awareness comes into the digging, because it's just like you're an archaeologist, right? Like if you're digging and you just see something in the ground, like, this is a piece of metal. Oh, actually that was a piece of like a 1,000,000-year relic, right? I got to be aware of what I'm digging up.
Right.
Now, the third piece that I think is really helpful for us that I noticed that you did is you created the container, right? Container can be a translation for space, connection, what we talked about. And
Yeah.
in each of these, there's a conflict. And in the end, there is the space. You created that space with your partner, with whoever you're in this relationship with,
Right.
or with self. So now it's like, okay, hey, listen, this is what's coming up. You learned something about someone else in that space because it was a space of transparency, a space of connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then you set up a system. You set up something to help you sustain that level, that edge, you know, to kind of like keep that resistance in the growth, like up,
Yeah.
okay. And I appreciate that you even have the physical cues. Like, hey, baby, I'm going to touch you on the knee here. You're safe. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about this.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to add something here. And then you had a situation where you also set up your safety's piece where you're like, okay, if you do it, love, I'm going to look you in the eye. I'm going to say, stop.
Mm-hmm.
That means you have to have a level of awareness like, okay, hey, can I stop here? Or no, this is important. I need to finish this.
Yeah.
So there's a 3 phases there, everybody who's watching this. There's the awareness piece first, which, Joe, like first breaking this down, like for awareness piece, what would you suggest as some ways people can gain that awareness?
Yeah. Well, I actually think that the courage to move into conflict and believe that it'll create greater life results, greater life experiences, greater business experiences, greater love experiences, greater parenting experiences. I think that's actually why we do the work on body, why we do the work on mind, why we do the work on spirit, why we do the work on our emotions. So find yourself in a position of practicing speaking your emotions, speaking your truth,
Right.
meditation practice, therapy, men's groups, journaling.
Nice.
Whenever you're frustrated, just break out pen and paper and just start rolling. Just let it flow.
So expressing self.
Right.
Find a way to express self and connect.
And be around people who are curious about their own selves, who talk about their mindset, who talk about their psychology, who talk about their feelings. Make that a priority around the people you spend time with. And it's going to be natural that you're going to be thinking about it more, talking about it more, practicing it more.
Right.
So the truth is, I couldn't have that experience if the person on the other side of the party wasn't doing their work.
Right. There it is.
So
now from that, and thank you for that, for the awareness piece. Now, from your experience now in that digging piece, that now that you got past the awareness, because you dug in. So what would be some tips that you would give for people to, when they, dig as they're digging? What are some tips there you have?
Yeah. Well, I think the easiest thing is to go, all right, well, this experience is bothering me.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Why? Why does it bother me?
Right.
Is it just a rule that I shouldn't be interrupted? Is it that there's someone in my past who I've had hard experiences with who interrupts me all the time? Is it that when I was 12, I was doing a book report and it was an oral report and I was about to get to my favorite part, and because of time, the teacher told me I was already going too long and I had to sit down and I got a C on it. There are these things that we carry, that we hold within us, that translate and project onto all future situations. So learn to understand the emotion and the projection of where it's coming from. Yeah.
I just want to add one thing here.
Mm-hmm.
That with the question, asking the question, like you can ask why. Another, what I found is something that can get you quicker or deeper access is, what about this bothers me?
Right.
Because a lot of times starting the question with why can bring up shame. Like, well, why does that bother me? Like it's wrong. No, it's not wrong. It bothers you. What about it bothers you?
Yeah.
It's an objective question, even though my tone may not reflect that. But anyway.
Right. and what about it is important, because sometimes what I'm experiencing when someone goes, tell me about that. What's the real problem here?
Right.
That could be a moment of explosive growth in your life, because you can go, wait a second, there isn't actually a reason. I just decided at a young age, or I just was told that these are rules. Like the rule to life is you don't get interrupted or whatever. Yeah. Like the rule to respect is you don't get it. Well, who told you that?
Yeah, who says? What makes them an authority?
right? And tell
Shoot.
me where it actually gets in the way. And
Right.
truthfully, it does get in the way of communication, this particular rule. But we're talking about all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Check your story. What are your shoulds? They should be doing this. You should be doing that. The other
Yeah.
thing I want to just break into some simple things that people can be aware of.
Mhm.
I think the first thing around conflict is we have to check our mindset around it.
All right.
What do you believe about conflict? Do you avoid conflict? If you avoid conflict, why? Is it because you believe that you're fragile? Is it because you believe the other person's fragile? Is it because you believe the connection that you have is fragile? What if you believed it was stronger? Right? So what if you believe that conflict was here to take you deeper? Or most of us just avoid the discomfort. Do you trust in your ability to grow from discomfort or pain? Do you trust in your ability to repair any breach that may come in? Right? That's the first thing. But then it's really about this mindset work to get to what I teach is 3 pieces. Integrity, right? And that's what I was just touching on. Now, integrity, not just being about honesty, not just being about following through with our commitments. People often think of honesty and accountability and they call it integrity. I don't buy that. Integrity is, are we integrating all of our experiences? Bullshit. Yeah. Are we integrating on a daily basis our experiences, our challenges, our parts to become a better and more whole human? Do we have a commitment to becoming better through this adversity? So the question to check in with yourself around integrity is, am I willing to hold this challenge, conflict, or adversity as a potential for me, my relationship, my business to improve? Right? Then we're talking about curiosity. All right, let me just admit that I don't know everything here. Can I admit that there's something the other party or the other side understands, sees, feels, experiences that I'm completely not privy to? What information am I missing? Can I choose to make this a fact-finding mission to understand what I don't understand? Can I be curious about myself and about the other party and about the reason there's friction?
Go Columbo.
Right? What don't I know here? Can I trust that there's something I don't know? Or am I so arrogant I think I know everything? And then finally, responsibility. Responsibility is another word we get confused. We often equate it to obligation. Responsibility is my ability to respond. Knowing, do I trust myself to say yes, no, maybe, renegotiate? And then what part have I played in creating this conflict? And what do I choose to do about it? What's my choice? Responsibility is ultimately about choice and being conscious of choice and making active choice. So these are the things that I try and teach people is when you have a conflict in front of you, take some time, take a pause and dig into this concept around, integrity, curiosity, responsibility. Right. Then at another time, you can hire me to teach you the actual tools of a hard conversation. No, I'm serious. We're running out of time right now. But then I've got like certain elements that are really important to then come to the conversation with. Values, emotions, I statements, enrollment, finding out if the other party is willing to be engaged in this solution. Like there's all these little elements that they don't need to, it doesn't need to be a script, but we can be very mindful of, do we get to these in the course of a conversation?
So what I'm hearing is there's some ways that they can connect. You have some other ways, but I know based on time we got to wrap up. Yeah. So you guys, as we always do, we wrap up. We have the email contact. So Joe dropped some gems here. So if you want to connect, be like, hey Joe, man, how'd you do this? Or hey Joe, let's set up a session. I got this situation.
Right.
Email is going to be on at the end of this video. We're going to have it throughout the video. Contact him, talk to him. Chop it up about how he worked that situation, because what the example he provided is freaking brilliant. And I got my contact there information there too. I work with teams. I also do I do my work primarily with men because I feel like there's a lot of tools that we don't have for us. So I focus on the men to help them with emotional intelligence, help them with this space of getting through conflict and really tap into connection with self.
Yeah.
The battle I'm working with, and I love to guide for someone else. So
we can only be connected to other people as much as we're connected to ourselves.
Can I
One
get an
little
amen?
challenge. We'll drop one little challenge at the end here, Paul, for people
What's up?
listening. People who are
Yeah.
still listening, you get the gold at the end. We always tell you this.
Yeah.
Here's the challenge. Here's a challenge right now. If you find yourself wanting to complain about something, I challenge you to figure out what's your request of the other person. What's your ask?
Mm.
Because I'll tell you, another key to this is I didn't come and say, I'm getting frustrated that you keep interrupting me. I said, hey, lover, I have something I want to ask of you, a request. And you make the request. You can do this in business. Hey, employee, I have a request of you that I'd like to make. Are you open to discussing this? Whole lot different than, hey, I need to talk to you about your performance. It's lacking. You know what I'm saying? So that's a challenge. If you feel like you want to complain, what's your request? What do you need to ask for? How do you bear the burden of responsibility in getting what you need and what you want? So it's a little gem at the end.
Little jam. Thanks everybody for tuning in. See you next time, babies.
Peace.